Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Cliff London Uncensored. No heroes, no idiots, except I would say possibly myself. But before we get into that, first things first, I don't know if you guys have heard yet, but these SJW idiots are going after the movie Tropic Thunder, right? The one that was made like years ago. These idiots, clearly, they're trying to cancel Robert Downey Jr. for doing blackface, quote unquote blackface. But if anybody with half a brain has actually seen the movie, that is clearly not what's going on. This guy just saw a white guy, saw some brown, and was like, oh, you should have saw the interview with some dude on Vlad just talking a bunch of fucking nonsense. So instead of pointing out the name or going into how much this dude's an idiot for having not seen the movie and what the movie is, I'll just say this: if you haven't seen Tropic Thunder, make sure you see it. Make sure this movie has a resurgence so that this idiot's head will explode. I know I'm going to watch it again just to spite him. One second here. Because the other thing I want to talk about is how being raised totally liberal, totally left, totally obsessing about race all the time is really times the 10th power harmful. And I'm going to use myself as an example now. Before I became enlightened, I was probably right up there with the most annoying people you could think of, and just thought I was all self-righteous and the world's against me, and one day, they'll love us. Then I became awake. But prior to that, when I first moved to Chicago, I had a interview with an advertising firm, and I don't know if you're familiar with advertising, but a lot of times all you need is a college degree. There's no specific field. They just want creative types. So, yeah, it was an interview. I can't even remember the name right off the bat. I don't even know if it was the front of the building or if it was on a floor within the building, but I just remember this incident, so bear with me. So I had this interview. You had to show up in a suit, tie, everything. Totally, like, big shit for a guy from a small town in Missouri. So I show up to the interview, and I got my suit, I got my tie on, I'm there. I'm confident, I'm looking around, and I realize something that shouldn't have affected me anyway, that I am the only black guy there. And immediately when I realized that I was the only black guy there, all of a sudden, everybody white there seemed like they knew each other. The guy that would come out and call names for interviews, at the time this seemed real to me, that, that they just had more of a chance at this interview than I did because they were white. And I even was imagining that the guy was looking at them like, here's an American stand-up guy, and giving me a look. Now, back then I believed this. If I go back in time, maybe this was happening, maybe it wasn't happening. But the point in the matter is that I didn't know this at the time, but I started to have a panic attack. I didn't know that this what the sweating, not really profusely, but feeling like I had to go to the bathroom and things like that, kind of like before a sparring session against some guy is hardcore, kind of like that feeling, you always got to go to the bathroom. So, that being said, I went to the bathroom, really being fearful that my name would be called. So the whole time I'm sitting in one of those enclosed stalls, a few guys come in there, and I can't see, who they are, if they're interviewees like me or if they're executives, but I'm guessing that they're probably executives because they're talking about hiring said person, hiring that person. Again, this is all years ago, so I'm doing my best to recall, but I did hear an exchange of saying, did you guys see that one black dude with the bald head? He thinks he actually has a chance at getting this job. I mean, have you looked around? Now, what I would have done, the new Cliff London, is say something like that would have gotten me hyped up, and I would have been like, today I'd be like, well, what do those fucking guys know? I'm going to put my best foot forward and fight for it and try to get it from them. I would have opened up my notes. I would have, went over my talking points and things of that nature. But instead, what I did is, I believe my thought process, I just kind of remember finishing going to the bathroom and waiting till they left. Waiting till they left when I should have walked out the door. Yeah. I couldn't even tell you why I waited till they left, but I don't know. Maybe felt like I was going to say something or do something. But when they left, I remember just looking at myself in the mirror and going, you know what, maybe I'm wasting my time. You know what, maybe they're right. I mean, after all, it did all seem like they knew each other. They all were talking about how they went to schools like Vanderbilt and Rutgers and stuff like, BYU and things like that. And I thought to myself, well, they called me for the interview, but maybe they thought that I was a white person because of my name. And the receptionist did look at me strangely, So, like a wuss, and I admit it, this was, over 15 years ago, I kind of slunk away. But I lied to myself even doing that, because I slunk away and tried to have an indignant attitude like, fuck this place, I'm too good for this, blah, blah, blah. But what it really was, years later, that I would realize that really what I was afraid of was the rejection. And really, I had mind fucked myself. And here's the shit and giggles part of it all, is that, for a few years when I used to live in, kind of live in the area, and that was my route to work, I'd have to walk by that building. And, I was walking by there one day, and I bullshit you not, I was walking by there one day, and I saw standing there this dude talking about he just got hired, maybe like 3 weeks later, as an advertiser, as an advertising executive up on the 30th floor of that building, and guess what? This dude was a tall, slender, black dude, bald head, and had tattoos all up and down his neck. Now, it wasn't any gang shit. It was like a beautiful flower tapestry, but it looked good in his very expensive suit, And a couple of those guys those faces I recognized from the interview were kissing his ass as they were all on their way out to lunch. And I thought to myself, I said, wow. Now, I didn't know if this, if it was the same place. There was lots of things on the 30th floor, but I know that day I was the only black person at that particular interview, on that particular floor. But my point is that I recognized those other two guys he was with from the interview, very distinctive. One was a redhead and one was really, 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 really blonde. So they were hard you recognize them if you saw them again. They were unique looking people. But apparently that fucking guy, had the will, or didn't think it in the first place, which is probably the latter, didn't see himself as inferior like we're taught today. He, more than likely, and even if he didn't, it's better for me to think that he did, got that job. Because maybe they were like, where was this guy? Maybe they even thought it was me. Maybe, but the point is he got it. And I didn't even try because of a combination of an entire lifetime of being told that white folk are out to get you. The man ain't never going to give you the same shot. We can only depend on ourselves to give each other opportunities. I remember hearing things in my brain like, they ain't going to give your black ass this job, dude. You might as well not even waste your time. Look at how they were looking at you. And this was probably complete and total paranoia. Again, I will have no way of truly knowing. But it is one of those things that always eats away. Why didn't I, I wish I had stayed. I wish that I was the person that I was now. Because I would have stayed. I would have fought it out. And if I lose, I lose. This was pre-martial arts years. So maybe that has something to do with it. I hadn't taken that in as a part of my, that hadn't seeped into my being yet. Now I think of things and see the world differently. But, yeah, but I would say the biggest contributor to that was a hardcore liberal leftist upbringing. See, that's where education is key, because when I went to, once I started going into college and start thinking for yourself and seeing different views and stuff like that, because I'm telling you, I was down the rabbit hole. And it's because of all that, all those thoughts, all the years of watching this shit over and over. The speeches, the old speeches, even like in the 90s, we shouldn't even been listening to shit from the 60s anymore, to be honest. You know, but that over and over again, you know, that contributed to it. That contributed to it. Teaching black folks to obsess about race is detrimentally harmful. It is very detrimental. It is very, very harmful. And I know that I'm not the only one out there that has had a similar experience, because years later, you know, what I probably had would be considered a panic attack. A panic attack, probably mixed in with a little fucking paranoia, because I've been told all my life that basically the world is out to get me. Basically that I don't have a chance. And for about the next year, lo and behold, periodically I'd walk by and see that guy there. And I would always wonder, as I will wonder for the rest of my life, if I had grew a pair, walked out that bathroom door, put my first foot forward, how differently things would have been. So, if you're a parent out there, if you're a black parent or a white parent, you know, because it could go the other way. If you got a white kid trying to rap or some shit like that. I'm kidding. I would say just teach them that they live in the greatest country and that they do have opportunity. I mean, yes, history is important. History is very important. But to obsess and to see yourself as a victim, it's not gonna get you the approval that you're seeking from white folk. It's not gonna make your life better. What it's gonna do is end up hurting you. Again, I'll say history is important, but what's more important is self-confidence. What's more important is having the confidence not to seek approval from anyone. Knowing who you are, what you're capable of in your heart and your limitations. And dealing with individuals as the individual, as non-generalizing things, you know, I believe is a better way to a better life, and instead of this constant feeling sorry for yourself, because you can mind fuck yourself and fuck yourself out of an opportunity, like I did. But like I always say, there is no fate but what we make for ourselves. If you've liked the content today, please rate it, please comment, please share, please subscribe, because it helps with the algorithms apparently, and the more subscribers I have, the more it grows. And yeah, and the subscribers I do have, again, thank you guys very, 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 very much. I appreciate all of you. This is Cliff London Uncensored. Good afternoon and have a good day.